Hey guys, welcome back to another FutureFit video. Today, we're going to be going in depth on the subject of macronutrients and how they play a role in our everyday diets. So what actually are macronutrients, or rather what is a macronutrient? Well, in order to better understand it, let's actually break down the word into two pieces. Starting with the prefix macro, it essentially means large in scale or overall large. This prefix is an indicator of the molecular size of the nutrient and is important when talking about the comparison of macro and micronutrients. The reason that the primary three macronutrients are large is because they are made up of a string of atoms bonded together, making their overall molecular size larger. But don't worry about that too much. Just focus on the fact that something being large. Next, let's look at the second part of the word, nutrients. Nutrients are essentially substances that our body needs to maintain itself. So together, macronutrients means large substances both in quantity and molecular size that we need to maintain structures in our body. So now that we know what the word means, let's look at the three primary macronutrients we need to sustain our bodies. The first one, and probably one of the ones you'll see most nowadays on health posters, is proteins. You commonly see labels saying things like high in proteins and are basically just referring to this specific macronutrient. Proteins are large chains of amino acids that combine together to form one large protein molecule. Amino acids are found organically in living organisms and are even found in DNA. Protein is extremely important for us humans because it allows us to absorb amino acids our body isn't normally able to synthesize on its own, which helps maintain and build muscle. This is why you always hear bodybuilders eating high protein foods in their diet, because after exercise, the muscle fibers are essentially torn, and by consuming proteins, we absorb amino acids that help rebuild these torn muscles fibers larger. Some sources of healthy proteins include chicken, fish, dairy, and lean beef. These are just a few, but if you have a modified diet that prohibits you from eating certain products, there are still other alternatives. Relating back to our calories video, 1 gram of protein is equal to roughly 4 calories. These measurements will be important for a later dieting video. Alright, the next macronutrient, and arguably the most infamous out of the three, is fats. The reason it's the most controversial macronutrient out there is because we've all been tricked into thinking that fat automatically equals bad and fat makes us fat. That's not necessarily the case at all. Fats are larger molecules made up of a single molecule of glycerol and 3 fatty acid molecules to form one large fat molecule. Like proteins, we consume fats because of two things. It allows us to absorb fats that our body normally wouldn't produce and helps us absorb essential vitamins. Certain vitamins aren't water soluble and are only fat soluble. Typically, the two types of fat you'll find in foods are saturated and unsaturated fats. The main difference between the two is that saturated fats typically stay solid once entering the bloodstream, while unsaturated fats dissolve because they remain liquid at room temperature. Saturated fats can clog arteries, hence why you want to try avoiding eating foods with large amounts of saturated fats. Some foods that have fats are meats, nuts, and oil. And just again, the calorie count for 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. The final and probably the most important macronutrient is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are large molecules that are made up of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Carbohydrates can be commonly found in everyday foods like rice, bread, and pastas. They're essentially the energy that our body needs to function on a daily basis. Without them, we wouldn't be able to live. 1 gram of a carbohydrate is equal to roughly 4 calories. Alright guys, with all that being said, we hope you take this knowledge and apply it to your everyday lives when reading food labels. Thanks for watching and hit the subscribe button.